This is Abe Friedtanzer from Ward's Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Brandon Scott Jones about ghosts. How are you today, Brandon?
I'm good. I'm good, man. How are you?
Good, good. I'm excited to talk about this show. I really enjoyed it, and I think Isaac is probably one of my favorite characters.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. That's very nice.
The first question is, how do you really feel about Alexander Hamilton?
Oh gosh. You know what? I've had a lot of time to think about this, and this is what I'll say is I find myself using $10 bills less. But I feel like, is it 10? He's on the 10, right? Yeah. I think sure. I no, I find that you look for like Alexander Hamiltons in your own life now. You know what I mean? You're like, who are your own rivals that you don't even realize you have? And I That's been the thing that sort of like kind of like worms your way in the brain the most.
I think one of the things I enjoy most about Isaac is his pettiness. Is that
Yes.
fun to play? And do you have to sort of rein that in so he's not so that you don't dislike him?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like you try to like almost like that is one of the qualities that he has that you try to make part of his endearing personality, but I think if you do go too far, it can get a little like obnoxious and crazy. But I think his pettiness is the thing that fuels him. And I think whenever you get a chance to really kind of get underneath that, you hopefully retroactively you understand it a little bit more.
Think so. You look pretty casual today. I'm happy to see. Um, what is it like wearing the same outfit every single episode?
Yeah. You know
You
what?
look
It's
great. Just
like
to be clear, I'm just saying, like, you're not
no, I'm chilling. I'm chilling out here in the desert. You probably can't see.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'm taking a little breather out here. But yeah, wearing the same costume every day. The easiest way I can describe it is it's like a good marker of like when your body is changing. You're like, why does this feel tighter today? I guess I ate a little bit more than I thought I meant to over the weekend, and so it is definitely that. It's like it's almost like living like a cartoon. Like you kind of will watch like The Simpsons. You're like, wow, Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson and Marge, they're all wearing the same thing every single day. I wonder what that must be like if they were real. And then you sort of get to live it a little bit.
It's also definitely been a fun season for Isaac. We've seen a lot of growth, well, not so some growth, some back, some not as much growth, but I
Yeah.
love the relationship with Nigel. I think that's been very, very sweet to see, especially in the season finale. What has it been like working with John and just charting that whole course?
Oh God, I love John. He's the best. He's so funny, and he and I come from very similar backgrounds of improv comedy, so we'll find a lot of fun ways to bit off screen and joke around, and I hopefully that translates. But he's been so great. I think it's this cool thing where like I almost wonder sometimes if it's not as appreciated as much of that he's like doing a British accent and he's kind of doing all the same things we're doing, but he's adding this extra affectation to it, which I think is brilliant. And Yeah, it's been fun to see their relationship really kind of grow and take steps back and take steps forward. But I think going back to that pettiness that Isaac has, it's interesting because I think it does sort of filter its way into that relationship too, like it almost like he can make irrational decisions based on petty things that he doesn't realize are affecting the thing that he cares about the most.
One of my favorite things I think on TV series is when there are characters who don't often interact who get a chance to share the screen. And I
Yeah.
think having to talk about tea with Trevor was one of those moments this season.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. We were really excited when we saw that in the script because it's one of those moments that like even though there's the lines there and the lines are great, you just know that the energy of that scene is going to be really really funny and the idea that there's this man with no pants just like hanging out with three overly dressed people is all inherently funny, and then to have them talk about something so benign, so boring, something somebody from the 90s and the early 2000s would be like, why are we doing this? Yeah, that's just like that's like the sweet spot of the show, I think.
Is there any actor who tends to make people laugh and ruin takes more than any other?
It's a real like pick 'em, you know what I'm saying? Like it's any day it could be anybody. I would say that like towards the end, for some reason, anytime I was in a scene with Devin, Devin Long, who plays Thorfinn, I couldn't stop laughing. Well, we were making each other laugh a lot, like in between takes. And there's a couple moments where there's an episode where like we're watching a woman very seductively eat a pork chop, and we had to make these faces. And it was impossible to just like to watch Devin make this like, "Ooh, I'm really into it" face was so funny. That was my Sling Blade impression when I did Thorfinn.
I got to talk to Rose recently, and she was talking about how scenes are, filmed either not necessarily filmed twice, but where the ghosts sort of run in from off screen. What is it like doing that, and how does that add to your performance?
It's first of all, it's when you're watching Rose do the same scene again with nobody there, you realize what a hack you are, like your own self is. Like she's doing such an incredible high wire act that I'm like, I don't think I could do it. So I think my first response is just watching Rose be fantastic. Like she never misses eye lines. It's like unreal. And then from like a performance aspect, to see your character actually, from with the exception of Rose, like nobody can see your character. So it's the only time you get to actually see reality of what this must look like and how insane it must be. Because if you're yelling and she's reacting to that and there's nobody there, it does change the dynamic. So you do find that the stuff that you do affects another character in a twofold way. Well, not only just as the character, but as the character in her world, which I think is really funny.
It was also fun to see Isaac team up with Alberta for a bit of detective work.
Yes, yes. Pony and Bangs. We will do that. We will do that forever. That's what Pony and Bangs was a name that I think Danielle came up with for us based on our hairstyles, and the writers heard it and they put it into the script, which was really cool. But yeah, like playing detective with her, oh my God, talk about breaking. She was making me laugh so hard that whole day because we shot that entire interrogation stuff in one day. And so we went from like morning till night. It was exhausting in the best way because at the end you were like, oh, I just did 5 scenes. But at the same time, you were realizing you were laughing so hard at your friend the entire time and trying to hold it in that it takes out a lot of energy as well.
Yeah. And of course, Hetty, I think, and Isaac are really one of the best instances of friendship on this show. And she too is, I think, not as naturally as much petty as sort of looking down on other people, and that
Yes.
makes them a very good pair.
Yeah, they're like they're high status. Like the idea that the two of them think they're the most high status, but they really don't have as much respect for everybody else as they think they do. I think that's more true for Isaac. I really do think Hetty holds a lot of gravity in the house. Like she really is the highest status person. But I think this is the way I've sort of always processed it in my brain was that Isaac thinks he's the highest status person in the house, but it's really Hetty. And the reason it's Hetty is because she could make all the decisions, but out of politeness, she defers to her friend Isaac. But we're also like the biggest buffoons, you know what I mean? Like we're idiots. So it's just really fun to play. A high status idiot is the dream.
Or do you feel like you still don't spend enough time acting opposite?
Oh, it was fun to get to do a scene with Trevor. I think that there's a lot of fun stuff to learn. Early on in the season, I think Pete and Isaac had some moments together that were really, really fun. And again, I love Richie, so I think it's about playing with them. But I would love to see what Isaac and Flower or Sasapis would be like. Like that one is the one I feel like we haven't spent too much time together getting into the nitty-gritty, and I think it could be really fun.
Do you have any sense, non-spoilery, of what's coming for season 3?
Oh, non-spoilery? I don't know. I mean, I hope that we get to see Isaac's, happiness with this new engagement. But I don't have anything because of the WGA strike. I don't think that they got too far into the room before it got shut down. So I'm sure they're still figuring out as well. But I'm just as excited and looking forward to it as everyone else is.
You find that you're recognized sort of out in public as Isaac, and is that a good thing?
Yeah, you know what? I get recognized as Isaac when I'm with other people from Ghosts, like it's almost like I think people don't necessarily, I don't get too much of that on the street or in like a restaurant or anything like that. But when I'm with like Devin, like people will definitely figure out who you can kind of piece it together. Like Asher, Devin, and I went to the Super Bowl this year, and it was funny. Like people recognize them because I think they both sort of like embody and look like their characters a little bit more. But maybe because I think without the makeup and the hair and all that and the uniform, maybe I look a little bit different than Isaac. Maybe I look the exact same, and I don't know. I'm just tricking myself. But I noticed that people would recognize us when I'm with them for sure.
You're also part of another show that has a sort of very active fan base. That's The Other Two. What is it
Yeah.
like being on these two shows around the same time?
Oh yeah, it was definitely like interesting filming them at the same time for sure. It was there's probably a billion people that I didn't even get a chance to meet that worked behind the scenes to make those schedules work out. So basically on my off weeks from Ghosts, I would fly down to New York to shoot the other two. And the easiest way I've described it is that it's sort of like a sauna and a cold plunge where like one makes the other feel even better. They feel very different, but um they complement each other, at least the fun of going between them. But I have to tell you, I was like, by the time January hit and we wrapped both shows, I wrapped them one week after the other. I was tired.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you were part of something that I feel like has to be somewhat similar makeup wise, which is Renfields, but
Yes.
otherwise a different kind of project.
Yes, much different kind of project, still in that supernatural realm. But yeah, that was a really cool, fun experience. First of all, just getting to see, like, I'm a big Nick Holt fan, and getting to do all my scenes with him was really, really cool. And then there's this bonus of Nicolas Cage coming in, and he's just seeing this person who's been working for ever and is still so excited by the process of it. It was really, really inspiring. It was cool. It was, I couldn't believe it. I remember thinking, I was like, oh, this is a moment like my parents would understand. Like, you know what I mean? When I was a kid, if I was like, I want to be an actor. And like, if I told them, I was like, oh, I'm doing a movie about Dracula and it's played by Nick Cage. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a movie.
Well, if we're talking about Nicholas Holt, I feel like it's the wrong era, but I feel like Isaac would die very quickly, but he could fit in pretty well on The Great. Something
Yes.
like that would be a good home for him to be swiftly and brutally killed.
Oh, 100% brutally killed completely. I think without there'd be like some like maybe like one fun foppish scene of the two people bickering, but then yes, absolutely would not survive. But God, I love The Great. It's so good. But yeah, that era feels of the ilk of the same ilk for sure.
Hetty would do fine, but Isaac
Oh, Hetty would be
probably.
great.
uh,
Hetty could probably I think she's used to kind of assimilating into different sort of high societies. So I think she would work. I think Isaac would get way too anxious and want to impress too many people and just absolutely kill the kill the regime.
well, this is a lot of exciting stuff. Do you have anything else that you're working on right now?
Right now, no. I mean, right now I'm sort of with everybody else and just sort of taking a little beat while while the WJ fights the good fight. I feel we have a few more episodes of the other two to release yet, and I'm really, really excited about Curtis and where you get to see him go in this season. But other than that, I think I'm chilling. I'm chilling out here in the desert and just trying to like take a little breather.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking a few minutes with me. It was such a pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, Abe, that was awesome. Thanks so much, man.